Thank you, everybody, for joining this webinar. We're going to go ahead and get started. And for anybody that pops in late, they will just miss a few small little housekeeping details. So my name is Stacey Garrett. I'm the VP of Marketing for Ideation. I have been with Ideation for a long time. Started as a sales account manager for 25, 26 years and have transitioned into a very part-time role just doing marketing. But I have been watching this trend of activations that are created for you, whereas in my whole career, I had to create the activations for clients. I had to do all of the things. And so I'm very excited about this webinar where we're going to talk about activations and how to really amplify the experience. And we've got a panel of some amazing experts. Kate, she is with a factory, Numo Manufacturing, and she does more of a hard goods activation where we do anything from you buy a box of the components and you do the activation on your own to on-site different types of personalized activation items. So Kate, thank you so much. She's joining us from Canada. Then we have Rachel Prost, who is with Live Printing. So Live Printing is doing basically when you go to an event and you see someone screen printing right there on site, this is our partner that we do that with. So she has a lot of experience in that kind of activation and many more, which we'll talk about. Thank you for joining us, Rachel. And St. Louis, right? Out of
Yeah.
St. Louis. So we have
Yeah.
people all across the country joining us this morning. Then Lawrence, troublemaker. No, I'm just kidding. Lawrence Henley from Desk Plants. Desk Plants is a little bit deceiving because that's what it started as, is doing plants, but it is so much more activations. We did one at Ideation where we did a candle bar where we were sent all of the components and then the whole team was able to create a Valentine's candle to be able to take home, and many more different activations that we're going to talk about throughout this. And anybody on your team at Ideation can give you more details on some of these cool activations. So Lawrence, yours is pretty much all activations basically in a box where it goes to the event and it is managed by the team.
That's correct. Yep,
Whereas
all components included, and then we send a little instruction sheet with also a QR code. You can see the video for setup and running the event. So it just exposes people to lower minimums, different price points, and it's all self-hosted.
Yeah, I love that. And then Mark, you are very hands-on. So Mark Henry is from Swanky, which I love the name so much. And so Swanky does hard goods that are lots of leather, some metal maybe. And one of the things that really caught my attention is they would do caricatures. So they would take a picture of you at this event. You're an attendee, you take a picture at the event, and then they would caricature it and engrave it on an item, from a luggage tag to a travel organizer to a portfolio. And so it's very hands-on equipment and all kinds of cool stuff, but it's so hyper personalized. So you can see all the attendees here, like we have such a diversity of types of activations with the hope that we will be able to give you ideas and inspiration of what's possible. This is not all of it. I think I speak for all of the partners here and then also the team at Ideation. Like, this is a starting place. If you hear something on this webinar that you're like, I love that. What if we did a combination of this plus that together? Like, let's talk about it. We think activations are really the way to elevate any kind of event. It makes things so much more memorable. And I think it feels a little overwhelming to a lot of people because there's so many just general questions that people have about the logistics of whether this is possible to even do for their organization or their event. And I think kind of what Lawrence alluded to, there is no, it's too small of an event, really. We can find a way to do an activation in just about any budget. Like Kate does a pen activation. It's a pen in a box where you get all the components for the pen, and then your engagement is building the pen so that you get the pen that has the color combinations that you love. So it really can be as elaborate or as simple as you would like. So we're going to kind of demystify some of those things around events today. I am going to ask questions of the panel here and get them to give some answers to help hopefully answer some of the questions that the audience would have. But feel free to go into the chat if you are watching and ask any questions that you have been dying to know. And if we're going to cover it, I will maybe skip by it. But if not, we will ask that question if we have time at the end. Okay, so first question up. Why do you think activations, this is for the panel here, why do you think activations are so powerful? Anybody?
I'll go. I think activations are so powerful because it really creates a stronger connection to the event, the brand that's putting the event on, and the actual consumer or participant in said event. Traditionally, it's been a lot more common to maybe have a goodie giveaway. Maybe it's a goodie bag or just some like drinkware on a table that you get to take away after having a conversation with somebody. I think it's stale. I think people are realizing it's stale. And I think a lot of it comes from the print on demand world, where in the consumer space, everything's personalized now. People have a demand and a desire for that one of one piece or something that's unique to that event or day or whatever. And this is an opportunity to take that consumer pattern that's been growing over the years and bring it into the B2B space and the corporate gifting world. So I think it's just a stronger connection between an event, brand, and the actual person you're interacting with, whether it's internal or external. Sorry, you kind of suck if you're not investing in this stuff because you're ignoring everything that the market's telling us. You need to get into it, and it's something that's a big part of growing brand value and perceived value of everything around an event.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think touching on that personalized side of things is super important. Is people are used to getting what they want, exactly the print on demand. The thing I find super interesting, like our pen bar, popular product for us, but the cool thing about it is it's building a pen. How do you explain, oh yeah, you get to take this and choose your colors, but language changes from, oh, I can build a pen to my pen. And products is that point where it becomes theirs. And when you can customize, you can personalize, and then you put ownership on it. And I think as well, when you start thinking about activations, those are engagement points for you so that their experience becomes personalized. Because if you are going to have a trade show booth that has all your information on it, that's just putting a website on a show floor. This is a way you get that personalized connection, you get that emotional connection on things, and that's where how you tie it in, how you give a souvenir, like a tangible piece of marketing for later. All of that is super important, and it's like good tiebacks to the brand, good emotional tiebacks to the brand, and also it's just engaging in discussion. It's like, how do you get someone to come to a booth, to engage in an event, to have those conversation and networking opportunities, and having an activation is a good starting point for it.
I love how you said that where the pen becomes my pen. That's a really like such a small little change in the thought process, but kind of huge because how often do you go to a trade show and you grab a pen and you consider it your pen? Like that
Yeah.
never happens. So that's such a great way to kind of put it. It becomes more personal and it's your thing that you got versus the thing that you got. I think that's a really great point. Rachel, as someone that does live printing, like where people are potentially hands-on printing their shirt or watching it print, what do you think makes that so special being, I mean, they're printing a t-shirt that you could have just handed out.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a lot of different customization options besides just printing on t-shirts.
Yeah.
We can do specific customization with, names and everything on it. I mean, just be able to like have your choice, like she said, does give it more ownership over it. It really ties your memory to it a little bit in a stronger way. It really flips the dynamic of being, marketed to, and as opposed to like being participating in that a little bit, and it creates a stronger memory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point. I mean, Mark, I have visited your booth where you've done activations and For me, part of what really stood out the first time I engaged with your brand was actually being able to watch the process happen in real time. Like that also, where sometimes you might have it done and then leave and come back. Like for you, for your activation, I was able to literally watch it be done. And I'm sure you saw this a lot. I was videotaping. This just shows how old I was. Um, yeah. I was recording it being done because I was like, that was also part of the experience was watching it happen. And then like, let's just talk about ROI an event standpoint. You're now taking this video of an engagement in a booth. When does that happen? That never happens. And then if you're lucky, it might end up on LinkedIn or social media with a tag. Like that is solid gold, right? And I mean, like the caricatures is something that really stands out to me that you guys do. And that is super unique. So maybe you can talk to that as well. But do you see that the behind the scenes of just like actually seeing what's happening is a big part of what makes your activation special?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, anyone can go on Amazon or Etsy now and buy basically anything with your name on it. And shows up at your doorstep and you have no idea how it got there from being a blank product to being personalized. So it's, for people who are not in the manufacturing space and haven't had any exposure to that, there's definitely a cool factor on seeing how these things are done. I mean, there's a massive number of TV shows that focus on nothing but how things are made. So there's definitely a level of intrigue and novelty to being part of that process and being able to experience it and capture it and share it. So that's something that we definitely see is the level of engagement and, to a degree, the participation in seeing the thing made and, dictating how you want it done. Like the guys have said, there's a lot of ownership that comes with that. It becomes your thing. And even with the branding on it, there's still an emotional connection because you've been part of making it. And, with the caricatures that we do and personalization, inherently we're all selfish beings. Humans love themselves, and you love nothing more than seeing your name on something, and seeing your face on something kind of doubles down on that. And even stuff that I've had made just in the testing process for creating our events, I don't want to throw it away if it has my name on it or my face on it. And there's something about that in human nature that makes you cherish that a little bit more. So yeah, those are the kinds of things that we look at when crafting an activation, is what kind of emotional triggers can we push to have people really feel tied to what they're getting.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think these are all such great points and slightly different points around what makes activation so powerful, why this is such a important part of any event. So what I hear, yeah, go ahead, Kate.
Oh, this is just a jump on to like your and Mark's point of like, so the trend futurist Vicky Ostrom, she talks about how your products should be Instagrammable, like, or they should be meant for social media. And in that case, what it means is you have a footprint beyond the event. So you
Yes.
do get tagged, you do get shown. So when it's an engaging event, like it's made in person, or it's that personalized moment of this is my candle, this is my pen, this is my etc., like my shirt, you have that ability for it to have a footprint beyond the event, which means your reach and your marketing ROI goes even further. So those are all factors. Like, have you made the experience like videographable? Like, is that even a word? But yeah, so those are all factors that when you think about it, how does this look and how will this get shared? Those are key in thinking about your footprint for
They
something.
are. And that's why it's important to have like someone that's thinking holistically, not just the logistics at the event. We need power, we need, this, an 8-foot table or whatever, that you're thinking about, the whole marketing impact. It goes way beyond what you're paying for the event. So one thing I get a lot, the big burning question is, well, but how many attendees do you need to have for an activation? Like $1 million question, right? It's kind of like someone asking, oh, what's the coolest product right now? It's like, I mean, depends. What's the audience? So many factors. But to to answer that question from all of your different perspectives, maybe we can go around and talk about how we answer that question for your particular activation. So Kate, yours is kind of the easiest, so we'll start with you.
I mean, it varies on how many we've always tell people is like our pen bar has 300 pens in it. That doesn't mean everyone's going to take just one. I always have people, okay, can I just make another one? So I think it really depends on like what you want the impact to be. We have smaller ones that of 36 pieces. We have larger ones of 100 and 300, and it really can vary for it. I think it's just when it comes down to it, is a budget and an experience. Like, what do you want people taking away from this? And I know with like Lawrence, Mark, you can have smaller scale ones. Rachel, I'm not as familiar with your process, but I think it's kind of where like the other factors beyond just how many is time, space, and budget. And those all come into play for it. But I really think it's you can do 300 pens for 5 people. No one is going to stop you.
Right. Or you do like maybe you have open houses once a month that you buy the 300 pens and you have that activation for 5 people each open house. The initial investment for something as simple as the box, pen in a box.
We have
or
people
pen
who have
bar.
set it up in the lobby of their office and they just create pens and it just becomes a moment that way. And again, you have that personalized moment, you have that personalized product that people can take away with in a really small moment too.
Man, credit unions need to do that. What a great,
I'm
or
just saying.
banks. I mean, what a fun way while you're standing in line to create something with their brand colors. So, yeah, that's great. Rachel, do you have guidelines on minimum number of people at an event?
Yeah, absolutely. We don't price anything out based on per person. So we do have a 2-hour minimum. But again, like you can do it as little as many people as possible. If you want to have 5, 10, 20 people there for a 2-hour event,
Right.
that's totally fine. You could even have us on site for an hour if you want, but we're going to bill for that 2 hours. But again, it's completely scalable. We can do a very small, intimate event. We've done like executive dinners with like embroidery and just like do a few different items. We can do large massive festivals or trade shows and like scale up as large as you need. So I mean the beauty of it is that there is a little bit of sustainability aspect to it in there that you can do as little or as many as you need to do. If you order, if you're ordering just 300 shirts and you're handing them out, you might be left with like 50 to 100 specific shirts for that event, and you're like they're just sitting in a box. So now we're just decorating them specifically for the amount of people that are there, and you can send the rest of the blanks back, and we're not sitting around with a bunch of blank or printed shirts that aren't needed. So
Right. Yeah, I think you have a good point. It's not the number of people specifically, it's how much you want to spend per person is really kind of a factor in that. But I think you also bring up a good point. Like it doesn't have to be thousands of people to do, it just might cost more per person, but it's still going to have that wow impact, even if it's 20 people. Like, yes, it'll cost more per person, but it'll be, I mean, shoot, sometimes you're spending more than that just on cocktails and dinner for a group of people. And so it's not really just about the number of people. But I think I asked this question because it's a common one that I hear. Well, the trade show is only going to have 1,000 people. We don't expect more than about 200 at our booth. Could we still do it? Or we have administrative professionals day and we only have 27 admins. Like we can't do an activation. And I'm trying to kind of demystify that a little bit to show you can actually do that. So, Lawrence, I know you have a lot of flexibility in yours.
Yeah. So we've designed ours to be totally malleable to really any event, right? So we've done for Earth Day with our succulent bars were incredibly popular. And we were doing ones as low as 12 or 15 for small offices at a local office doing, I don't know what the industry, but they were just smaller office. Just something to activate and elevate the Earth Day because they were already catering something, and typically your average catering bill is $50 to $70 per person. Fun fact. And we came in under half of that, right? So we were able to elevate, or that client was able to elevate their their experience for not much more than they were already, putting into the luncheon that they were doing. We've also done, pretty big ones. We've done candle bars for almost 1,000 people at an on hands back in the spring. So our guideline, so to speak, is 15-ish people, is ish being like could be 12, could be 18, but we really are wanting to create the option for folks, and we price it per unit, but we want to create the option for folks that, hey, look, we do want to elevate this, but we don't really have the budget or the capability of bringing somebody on site. What do we use? That's where we kind of come in and can offer that. But also we can get pretty competitive pricing for the super large volumes. So kind of a long way of answering that, but
No, I think it's perfect because it just shows like we can do small groups and large groups, and don't let the size of the group be the thing that keeps you from trying to do an activation.
Yep.
Mark, you have a little different.
Yeah, I mean, ours is kind of a mix of both. We have hosted activations that have higher minimums because you got people traveling across the country, and obviously, the more people that those people who are traveling are catering to, the more you kind of eat up that travel cost per person. But then we also have, like Lauren's, a self-hosted activation now where you can cater to a much smaller audience because there's not the labor involved, where you're getting a kit and set it up, and it is usually valuable for smaller groups where you can have more engagement and conversation, around the activation in a smaller group than, say, trying to rush 3,200 people through something in over the course of 8 hours, where it can become more frantic. So the opportunity for greater engagement is definitely there in the smaller groups.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's also to answer the question. A lot of people like there are super great opportunities for smaller groups because it is so much more conversational and things like that. So don't let either too big of a group be your limiting factor or too small of a group being your limiting factor. Like we have a way to make it work for basically any size group. So you guys have touched on it a little bit, but it sounds like several of you have this, but ones where you don't have to have someone go to the event. Lawrence, that's really that is your sweet spot, right? Nothing you do requires you to go to the event, right?
Currently, that is correct. Yep.
So if you're looking for one where you don't want to have someone else's staff manning in your, event space, Lawrence has great options for that. Kate, you also have some great options for if you don't have staff, you have the ability to order something and manage the activation on your own, which does keep the cost down because you're not paying for additional staff to come, but you also then have to staff it yourself, depending on the project. Mark, you also now have ways to do non-staffed activations, correct?
Yeah.
But a lot of what you started on was you brought the equipment and the team in and you managed it all, which is lovely. Like that fits perfectly for a lot of scenarios. It just doesn't fit for all of them. And then Rachel, do you have any where you don't have the staffing?
The only way we can do it without staffing is if we have an app that we've created in-house, and we can bring the app, have it set up, and have them decorate the items virtually, and then we can go back to our shop and then print them or decorate them and then ship them to each individual person. So we're not actually activating on site. If we are, then we do require our staff to be on site.
Yeah. Which again, like some places, that's what they want. They don't want to have to manage it. They want their team to focus on their core business and that knowledge and not have to have people managing an activation. It just depends on the company. And so the question is really meant to be more, hey, like, can you do it without having to have the logistics of travel? And because I think a lot of people also, they see dollar signs when they see that, which is understandable because it is expensive to transport equipment and people and then have people on staff for an event. Like one of our clients just had an event finish up that was 4 days. So like that gets expensive to have an activation for 4 days of having people on staff. But if you want that, it is also an option. So one of the questions in the chat is if we're going to show examples from each panelist. We actually, in the follow-up, we will send you, we have videos of all of these activations and what they look like, as well as a PDF of all the different kinds of activations that are possible. So thank you for that question, Carrie. We will definitely be sharing that post-webinar so that you have it all at your fingertips to refer back to as well. So it's a little easier in one place. So another question, have any of you ever done a virtual activation? So example, like a little more information around that. When COVID was happening, like our team did a ton of activations and it was the thing, like you would do even cocktail making with your clients or your team, and you'd build a charcuterie board and we'd send all of the items to the recipient. And we did it for customers of ours. We did it for their customers, but also internally for teams virtually. It's more complicated for sure because especially for some of the activations where we're giving them choices, like that's hard to do. Do any of you guys have some kind of activation that you can do more virtually?
Yeah, so it's going to be available in August. We're kind of focusing on some Christmas lunches the next couple of weeks. I know we're gifting world. It's shocking we get a Christmas 6 months ahead of time. But in August, we're going to be launching our terrarium bar, and that is geared towards the remote team, right? So it'll come out if folks are familiar with terrariums, it's typically in like a glass little house, and we'll include the soil, a little bit of decorative sand, decorative pebbles, different succulents, air plants. We can add in like custom cut or 3D printed icons that are relevant to the brand or some sort of theme. Put all that together, and basically, we would have somebody host a Zoom. The whole team would jump on. We teach people how to, plant their succulents nicely so that they survive, and then put everything else together how they want, and they create their own little unique terrarium. So that is something that we're designing specifically for what you're talking about, Stacy.
Yeah, I mean, we've done it a lot with not the terrariums because you haven't launched it yet, but these kinds of events for even account managers, not our account manager, our customers that have sales reps with some of their top clients. Like we've hosted those, we've helped with all of the logistics and everything for that sales rep to have, maybe their customers are all across the country and they can't possibly go to all of them all of the time. So this is a way for them to do some kind of virtual engagement that's memorable. And while it might be a little more expensive to ship things independently, the reality is it's way more affordable than a lot of other things that could be done to get that kind of face time. So I love the terrarium. I think that's really fun. We've actually done that at a team building in person, and I think it's such a cool idea. Do the candle bar too, potentially, yeah.
Yeah, so what we would do with the candle bar for remote stuff is if when we send the candle bars, we send like bowls of 4 to 7 to 10 different colors of candle wax sand. So instead of sending them in bigger bags with bowls and scoops, we could send them in proportioned bags that you can fill one unit with. And the idea is the same idea. If you imagine sand art, that's kind of the concept there.
Yeah.
We can create different layers of colors, or we can include little utensils to like, you can poke the sand at the edge into like a heart, right? So there's ways that we can certainly incorporate the candle bar into a remote experience as well.
Yeah, that's fun. Anybody else have something that you think could work for the remote?
Yeah, like I mentioned previously, the app that we have set up, it's just a URL. We can set it up specifically for any type of activation that we have. You can choose your merchandise item, a different color potentially. You can either choose a design or you can type in specific customization text. We then take those orders and then send them out to all of the individuals. So it's a pretty easy way we can send it to anyone around the US. So
Yeah, and then you get the activation the time of, and I love this about some follow-up is then you have another touch point down the road. Like it's not as instant downfall, but positive is you get this great opportunity to have another reminder of this cool thing you did. So I've always loved that. I just know that it takes a little more logistics, but it
Yeah.
sounds like your app kind of solves some of those problems
Yeah,
too.
and then again, you're producing exactly what you need and not having
Yeah,
additional items. So
sweet.
Yeah, we've had people make the gifting process part of like an activation in a way. So, because there's so much that we can do at Numo in terms of customizing a product. I had one client that actually had the team vote on the designs that were going to go into our gifting boxes. So we have boxes and we do kitting for everything. And so they made them choose between like a notebook design and a hat design, and those two, and then it get kitted together. So that becomes the engagement point beforehand. And then again, it kind of feels, even if your design didn't win, there's still that level of personalization of like you contributed to what got chosen.
Yeah, yeah, that's fun. Mark, I assume yours is a little more challenging to do anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any good answers here, so
Yeah.
I'll skip out on this one.
Okay. All right. I'm going to ask each one of you this. So, what are three things to consider when deciding if you should do an activation or not? So, if I'm XYZ company and I'm thinking about an upcoming event, what are three things you should consider or think about when deciding whether you should do an activation? So, Kate, you want to start with that?
I feel like the other ones are kind of better in terms of like on site for that, but I would say really it's the simple everyday marketing questions that you should ask yourself. Like, does this help your goals of a trade show, of a conference, or an offsite? So is having a like our disc-bound journal building point. Is that going to help? Is that something for people to do? Even our pen bar, I had a client who chose to do it as something that people could do to kind of help with the lineups for coffee and food, and just as a third point in that space. So,
Mhm.
does it help your goals? Does it help your branding? For in this cases, our pen bar, people were very tired of, just putting pens out on a table and going, I really hope that they remember us and they like this pen. And it changed to like, so the pen, it's my pen.
Mhm.
And so does it help your goals? Is your goal to have someone stay in your booth and you have that moment to talk to them? And then on top of that is this going to be fun? Is this something that's the right fit for you? And then all the other boring logistics. Do we have the space for it? How is it going to get there? Do we have the budget? But so there's all those factors, but I think again, does it tie into your goal? Are you thinking about in terms of what the ROI is? And yeah, I'm sure that everyone else has much better answers than mine, but those are sort of factors that I see and know people are thinking about constantly.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
I
I
think
think like you hit the nail on the head with at least part of it too is like making sure it doesn't take away from your objectives of the event. Like that is so important to be mindful of. Like, oh, it's cool that someone got to print a t-shirt or did a cool caricature, but making sure it also fits with what are you trying to accomplish at this event and making sure that's not taking away from the main goal of the event. And that's like we're here to help with that, but also the, event team that's planning it internally for the customer needs to be thinking about that as well. So I think that that's a really good point. Mark, do you have any three things that you think people should be thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the use case, and it all ties back to marketing goals again. But for example, one really popular use case for our activations would be trade shows because we use an intake form and we can manipulate that intake form to gather as many data points as you want. And so it becomes this exchange. They're not just coming by your booth and getting something for free. They're giving you as much information as you want to charge them for the gift. So when it comes to ROI and your activation, if they know they're going to get 100 people's data points and they're high value customers, they can, figure out the ROI on that down the line, then it's a really great investment. So that's a no-brainer to run the activation there. Another use case might just be, we did one a couple of weeks ago where there was a group of 100 people and there was a 30-minute lull in the event where they were just going to have people sitting around waiting for a show to start. And they're like, okay, well, why not we give them something to create a memory within that space of time? And, what's better than to get hands-on and creative with something and get involved and have a really nice gift to take away. So it all depends on your goals and your use case and scenario and whether it makes sense to do in those specific, time frames that you have. So yeah, it's a long way of saying, what are your goals?
Yeah. Well, and to your something because I've experienced your activation before, like in the intake form, you got my cell phone number, and it said specifically, like I'm your customer, right? So you're the one collecting the data for the activation. So it's a little different than what we would do for a client, but you got my cell phone number so that you could text me when my item was done because there was a huge demand, lots of people there. I hung out for a while, videotaped, I mean, I got to get that out of my vocabulary. I recorded the activation happening in real time, but you then texted me and you have this opportunity now. I was then reminded about the booth that I was at, and it gave me another touch point that you didn't have to do. You could have emailed me or whatever. I loved that. I loved that I was receiving communication as a follow-up that didn't feel intrusive. I was excited for it. I mean, I literally stopped wherever I was at in the trade show and went straight back to that booth. Like, when does that happen at a trade show? That never happens. And so I love customizing the intake form to make it so that it also ties in with whatever your goals are for the event, whatever the event might be, the trade show or other kinds of event, which, a lot of our clients are doing trade shows, but there are other things. I think those are perfect examples to be thoughtful of not just using the data for the activation itself, but also for your business needs. Lawrence, any thoughts?
I mean, I'm gonna go with the same thing that both Kate and Mark talked about is what are your goals, right? I mean, people talk about it. We will say it 3, and I'm assuming Rachel will probably say the same thing, say 4 times over, but a lot of people skip that or they don't think about it enough, right? So just as a point, yeah, definitely think about your goals. For us, we always encourage people to think about the theme, right? Because when you have an activation, it's cool. Whatever you're doing is going to be a cool experience. It's going to be much richer than just having some static merch that you just take off a table. But how can we make it a little more immersive, right? So when we look at our candle bar, we're always talking about, think about, is this in a certain city that's got like Miami Vice, right? Can we include those colors into some of the wax colors we're working with? If it's in the fall and say it's Halloween, can we get, because we can source a bunch of custom shaped glass vessels for candles. Can we get the pumpkin shape with the Halloween colors and maybe pumpkin spice as a scent that you add to it, right? So it makes it that much more of an involved and immersive experience. So we always say, let's think about the theme on top of your goals, to just make it super like, oh, this all makes sense. And like, it's just that much more, that much stickier, right?
Yes.
And then finally, I'd say, budget, right? Because we have everything that fits a budget from the low end all the way to the high end, without getting specifics. So basically, I think that's an important factor because, that factors into your ROI. So if you've got a small budget, but you just want to elevate it, your ROI is going to be different than somebody who has hundreds of dollars to spend per person and they're trying to get like a really more super premium experience, right? And there's no wrong ROI there. It's just a different one, right? So it kind of, I guess that ties into the first question of your goals, but those are 3 I'd look at.
Oh yeah, I mean she's like so common for people to be like, well, what does it cost to have, what's XYZ activation? Like we know exactly what it costs to do 300 pens in a pen box. We know exactly what it's going to cost to do a candle bar, per person. But the other more on-site activations, it's really, there's too many questions that need to be answered to know the cost. So coming up with the budget and then figuring out the activation that might work best with the budget, the location, the number of people, like those are important things to consider. Like with Rachel, some of them aren't as variable on the number of people, but we still are going to ask that question because that's going to help determine what is going to be the best bang for your buck. And so it's definitely one, we never ask budget with the hopes of spending all of your money. We ask budget so that we can make sure we get the most bang for that budget and not waste money. But it's truly what we all at Ideation, that's what we all care about, is the long-term impact and relationship. So we're not just going to spend your money because you say you have $10,000 or $100,000 or $1,000. Like, we're asking that so that we help give you realistic options for an activation that'll work based on the number of people you have to interact with. Rachel, do you have anything to add beyond what these guys all said?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to touch, I mean, a lot of the same things they said. Determining your goal is huge. You know, is it for awareness? Is it drawing to your booth, gathering leads, just, you know, gifting, social content? It changes everything about the entire process. And budget as well, that's huge. Just being realistic about that budget up front, you know, that's super important because you know, a premium item is going to live longer in your on your client's desk. Like a premium tumbler is going to be there longer than something like cheaper that, you know, may end up in the trash. And then another huge thing is just like space and planning and you know, brand integration, you know, matching your production to the crowd size so you're not like running out and ruining that experience later on, but also making sure that activation is truly integrated into your space and it feels like an extension of your brand. Because sometimes, you know, it can be end up feeling like just like a tiny little kiosk that's like parked next to it and it feels like totally separate from that. So having it built out really enhances the experience and it feels cohesive. So
I agree. I mean, I think most of the people on this call, I know myself, I think probably everybody here has experienced those events where there's an activation that feels like it's a separate booth. Like it's not part of, you know, maybe it's Dell computers and they've got this big elaborate and super techy and the colors and lighting. And then there's the activation next to it that doesn't have that same feel. And so it's not actually helping your brand because it's pulling it away from that and doesn't jive with the rest of what the event space looks like. And that is another big factor, like when you're thinking about the three things, like how much space are we going to have and how much are we willing to commit to this activation? Because that will help us determine we're not bringing in a screen printer if you have a 10 by 20. Like it's not going to happen. But could we do something else that will actually still work within that size of space? And you, most of the time, you know what size space you're going to have. I think also we are talking about trade shows and stuff like that, but I think as we look at the holidays, there's still some opportunities for some activations then, but also even into the new year, planning for sales kickoffs. Like, what a great way to get your sales teams like jazzed about the year ahead with some kind of cool activation. And that, you know, sales kickoffs are oftentimes internal only. But what a great way to make that part and build some of that energy around it. So with that, I have a question. How far in advance do you need to plan for an activation? Every one of you is going to have a slightly different answer. So I would love to just throw out what you need to have as far as timing.
Yeah,
yeah,
I
our
can
minimum
start.
is, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Mine's easy. So because everything is sort of made to order at Numo. So between 7 to 15 days, I would budget for that, as well as shipping. Everything ships out of Texas. So that's sort of the factor on that one is sort of how quickly we can turn around. We've turned it around faster, but 7 to 15 is the ideal time frame.
Yeah, which is perfect for someone that wants to do something like they still want to do it for their company picnic in August, that it's doable.
Yeah.
Rachel's probably got a very different answer.
Yes, our minimum is 4 weeks in advance. We do have a rush option for 3 weeks in advance. On super case by case basis, we can take some things that are a little bit sooner than that. Just always reach out to us, let us know. Depends on the location, timing, sizing, everything, but it's doable.
Oh my gosh. If you're on the call, if you're watching this,
please try and not do that. But
none of us want that's really oh my gosh, something dropped out and we are panicking and we need to fill this space. No one wants to deal with that kind of
We won't
logistics.
always say yes, but we'll take it into
Yes,
consideration.
yeah.
So don't,
Yeah,
don't
so a month
worry about we can't.
minimum, but because you book out, because there's a limited number of, like, because there's equipment and staffing, really, you can book out as far as 6 months, a year, even if
Oh
you
yeah,
want.
please. More time is better. So
Yeah.
don't
Okay.
ever worry about doing too far in advance.
Yes, that's what I always say. Lawrence?
Volume wise, because we do typically have a lower volume and we're also not traveling. So we could
Yeah.
do as little as 1 week for small, like happy hour. Like let's say holidays are coming up and your team's just focused on holiday stuff and you haven't figured it out until the week before the event that was scheduled. We could probably do that if it's a small enough one. But ideally, 2 to 3 weeks is our sweet spot because we're typically about 5 to 8 business days of production. And then you got to factor in 2 to 3 business days shipping from Austin, so to most of the country. So when you factor in freight and production time, it typically is 2 to 3 weeks.
Amazing. Mark?
Yeah, generally there's a big disconnect between what we ask for and what we get, as we all are familiar with in this industry. But typically we ask for 6 weeks for a hosted activation to deal with all the logistics and the pre-decoration and the artwork and whatnot. But we have executed on as little as 3 days, where we had
Don't
to
tell
dig
them
someone,
that.
we had to dig someone out of a hole. We drove a team to LA and we personalized gifts for 300 people on 3 days' notice.
Wow.
So anything's possible, but 4 to 6 weeks is a general ask for the hosted, and then 2 to 3 weeks for the self-hosted.
Okay. I mean, I asked this question because one, I know we have to deal with some logistics of equipment and whatever, but right now people are still thinking about the holidays. And it feels like, oh, there's not enough time to do something for the holidays. And I think you've all just basically said there is.
Yeah, and
You have an event in,
now's the time to act on that because that's when the most demand kicks in, and
yes,
it'll be the last minute people, and we're gonna have to say no to a lot of people this
right.
Q4 because of bandwidth. So yeah, now's the time to think about it.
I'll add to what Mark's saying. What we typically start seeing this the serious, orders start come in or at least getting serious around mid to end of August. So those conversations have started now, right?
Yeah.
So maybe even like the week after July 4th, those conversations start. People are on summer, they're doing their thing. They start coming
Yes.
together and having real weight and stickiness to them starting end of August. And by September, we're already booking a lot of holiday operations, holiday projects. So
Yeah, I think we all know that all best laid plans for the holidays are always the sooner the better. But I think you also all are sharing like there is a possibility to do something with a couple weeks notice even. And I encourage anyone watching this to ask. You all have all just said it. Like you have an event and you just watch this webinar and you're so excited about it. Ask Ideation. We can probably make something work. And you don't need 6 months. 6 months is great. But I think that's what a lot of people like, oh, I've waited too long. The event is in 2 months. I don't have the time to figure out all the logistics. That's not really the case. We can figure that out, assuming that if it's something that needs to be manned or womaned, that it has the schedule allows for it. But if not, we can figure out an activation that doesn't require that. So I think that all of these questions have been about kind of answering some of the questions and making it feel completely doable to do some of these activations. Budget's not really a factor. All of you have an option that allows a fairly low budget activation at an event or a trade show. Number of people, many options for anything from 15 to 20 people to thousands of people. Timing, like all of these things make it so that an activation is completely within reach for anyone that wants to make a more of an impact. I think something that you all kind of talked about is touching on the goals. And I see it often when I attend events where people have had activations, is that they sometimes miss tying the business objectives with the activation. And I think, we're here to help ask those questions. We'll do whatever the client wants, but that doesn't mean we're not going to ask questions to make sure that we are fitting in with the objective, but also making it so it doesn't feel like just the same old corporate merch. Like making it feel like something that is fun is a good way to put it, but not all brands fit with fun. So like they want it to be maybe a little more corporate-y. Well, we can still make it personal and corporate-y. Like we can figure out a way to make that pen, that picture frame, that plant become theirs and still fit with the corporation's objectives for whatever that event is. So, ideation is always, we have amazing resources. We have these amazing partners that we have on screen here that can help make your next event, your future events so freaking awesome. You just have to ask the questions and we'll do what we can to make it all work. So thank you all for coming to for being on this panel, this webinar. Does anybody have any last notes that you want to add, like I just did?
Just to kind of piggyback with the Christmas stuff or holiday stuff, I should say. I will say that Mark and I both we said, hey, those conversations start now. I for us at least for the self-hosted stuff, we should be good up until really November, end of November, Thanksgiving time to really be able to hone in on some stuff. So yeah, no pressure if you just don't have the time or you've got a big event in the fall. But my last note is we're doing our little holiday shoots for the Christmas tree decoration bars. So those will be some fun holiday items that we throw out there. So more to come on those, I'm sure, through.
Yes. Oh, this is on our radar. What a great team building holiday. Like do a potluck and have everybody make their own Christmas tree ahead of Christmas. So then their desk, their kitchen table, whatever, has this fun decorated Christmas tree. I'm very excited about this, Lawrence. We are have a lot of plans to promote that because I think it's such a fun team building and also just a great way to get into the holiday spirit. So,
and we could do the Hanukkah bush version too. So we're thinking of everybody, as many as we can.
Yes. Yes, I love this. So watch for more information from Ideation. We're going to be posting more about it on social and it'll be part of our activation PDF and videos that we send out to everybody. So again, thank you all. You are amazing. Thank you for changing the world of swag and making it less adult trick-or-treating and more about matching merch to businesses' objectives. Like we love that. It's something I've been passionate about for the last 26 years of doing this. So I appreciate all of you and let's go out there and engage with some of our clients.
Amazing.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.